everybody. And a day that's been filled with a lot of information, but still leaves us kind of wondering exactly how quickly, if we can bounce through here, and exactly what the proper signal would be to push back into these bullish areas. XRP is a little bit below still, but climbing up here very steady through the day. $3.06. Once you get on top of there for XRP would be a very nice signal if we could get back up there. For Ethereum, we're still trying to eke our way back up there. It's around 3,558 to try to retest that area. In Bitcoin, it's around 115,100 roughly. And that's a very key area as well. Yes, it needs to go a little bit higher to break back into the real bullish territories, but that's a good start. Now, as far as should you be buying, should you be watching, that's a personal decision up to you. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not a financial advisor, and leading into that, this is for entertainment purposes only. I will try to do my best to show you the charts, let you see the setup so you can make a very educated decision. Even if you struggle with the charts, I'll still show you so that you can see. And for example of what I speak of is we'll be able to see these setups here. And now we know the weekly candle closed. We need to see what kind of started as of the week, but in the shorter time frame to kind of see how this starts to shake out. A very nice way to look at this is through this chart. We had the initial breakdown. Earlier, we were seeing if we were going to back test here at 289. We broke past through there, so now we can start to push up towards this 306. And if we can get past this 306 range, this is going to be a very big, well, it's 305 in this formation, but it's 306 in just a metric standpoint. That would be a big take. And now we need to see if we can continue to move through this 4-hour time frame, because then if we can invalidate the downward structure. And this is where we can find out very quickly if we're bullish or bearish. And now you would start to see, well, it came down from $3.60. It didn't break the 270 area. It came close to 270, but I think it was 278 roughly. Oh, 274. So it was pretty close. It was pretty close. That uptrend stayed intact. And now we've bounced back within the structure. So that was the initial breakdown area. Now we could say it's in a channel if we open it up. Maybe we were early on a channel or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe it's just expanded out. It's hard to tell because we're getting more data. So like sometimes when you get the data, you can open it up. But from the initial standpoint, I still like to keep it closed here so that we can see how it kind of bounced out. And then now it's bounced back in. We had the looming death cross that right now we're on the top side of for XRP. We've remained in a sense in the bullish setup, so we haven't given this back yet. This could very well be a big windup and a big explosive move out of here. But we have to see if we can get a follow through, because we're on the verge here of if we can get back on top of the 20 days here across the board and these daily setups. That's why it's so important here. If we can get on top of 306, I think if we get on top of 306, this could change the game a little bit. And then we're going to have some serious pressure here. But we'll see. We'll see. Because, you know, we could argue at the same time that 4-hour time frame could get overtaken. So we'll see exactly how this pans out to start the weekly. The weekly ended a little bit. You know, it was a little bearish overall. But it could have been much worse. It pulled up a fair amount. But now we need to see how this plays out. Like, are we going to get an immediate drop down? Are we going to get some kind of pressure? You know, I want to see exactly how this starts here on the week. So, I'm excited. I like these active movements because now it's either we're one step closer. Well, I mean, you might be in the market. I'm in the market with a couple with XRP and XRP. But besides that, I'm saying like a bigger leap for me. We could be a micro movement away from me being like, okay, you know, I like what this is starting to present itself as. Or it's going to show me something that scares me. But right now, I like how it's picking up a little bit of intensity. I'd like to see some more volume coming in. But if we can overtake some of these very dangerous areas, it's going to give us a lot more flexibility here. But we really need to get back on top of here for IOTA. There's just a lot. But these could pull up here now. You see, this is where I have a lot of hope. I do have hope here as well. I have hope. Because we formed, let's just say we did this, blah, blah, blah. We came down here. But then we come through here. Looks like a rounding bottom. Looks like a nice little formation here with a nice rounding bottom. Come down. Now, if it does a bang, support 1, support 2, and now it swings around. Even if it does something like that, you could find a way to bounce out of here. You know, but if it can't overtake this region, well, then it's going to end up doing this. But that's not guaranteed. We've already got a nice setup here. That's why, you know, yesterday was an opportunity to take a shot here and then pull it up. Or you take a shot when it starts to break that death cross area and just play the fact that you could buy in now. And some people like to wait as well because then they get a little bit of a short-term support. So now they'd be going in and being like, hey, I'm going to buy IOTA. There's nothing that can stop me. But if it comes below 17.15, I'm just going to wait for the next area, or I'm just going to buy it down from here because we already know it's come down. Yeah, it's bounced a little bit off the bottom, maybe a cent or so, but it's come down from almost 26 cents. So, you know, you're looking at it from the perspective, it's down 27% right now from that rounding top that we just had in the last week or so. And now, yeah, it's had a return off the bottom, but now it's starting to push past that, you know, death cross area. And now it's like you ride it out if you're looking for it, but you got to have a plan. Like, I can't just be like, hey, take it now, and it's all going to work out because it's all speculative at best. But at some point, alt season's going to start. I just don't know because Ethereum hasn't given me the proper signal yet. As of right now, I still think Q1 of 2026 is the best opportunity for when we get truly parabolic for Ethereum. That doesn't mean it can't go up above 4,000 and 5,000 before then, but I think Nick knows what I mean. This true parabolic spike where Ethereum's going to move like 1 or 2x very quickly. Like it's going to do 40, 50% over a course of a day or two when it gets into that extremely volatile movement. I'm not talking 10, 15% in a day. I'm talking about a series of like a 3-day stretch where you're up 1, 2x on Ethereum. Like it'll go from that 5,000 and 6,000 to maybe 15,000 very quickly. Even all these alts, they're set up like, I hope people are paying attention to what Nick's saying, because we might have been talking about the micro drops, but there's a macro opportunity that is set up. It is set up. It is absolutely setting up that macro opportunity. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to break this entire structure. So we're really playing, you know, we're really playing with opportunity or opportunistic fire here, because if it never breaks this setup here for IOTA, for example, support, support, support. Those are your 3 wings of come down to a shoulder, head, shoulder, back testing this movement. And now it's like you're playing with the fortune here. And then you go overall and you're like, well, you know, the best possible opportunity, and this is my own thinking, that we should get would be, even if it came all the way back down here, that's 13 cents. We've got bang right here. Bang. Bang. And now I could argue that this back test that we're currently doing right now, that we're trying to push out of, is the back test of the new neckline here. I could argue that this could be the biggest opportunity we've seen. Oh, I know, Nick. I know. I get it too, because it gets exhausting, because I try to show the short-term moves to keep it interesting, but it's still with that long-term bias of knowing this is extremely bullish. So on every 25% drop, I'm not going to kill you if you buy some. You know, or if you buy a whole shitload here, I'm not going to say, oh my God, like last night I thought it was an opportunity for the ones who wanted to take an early shot. And yeah, sometimes does it end up doing something like this? Of course it does, but we've already got a short term where it went bang, bang. So you could theoretically make an argument that maybe it did. Oh, let me get off the focus of IOTA, but that just was one that actually speaks in the same thing we're talking about. But right now for Bitcoin, if you're looking at the micro, you're trying to get past that death cross for Bitcoin. And that's going to leave you got to get above 115, at least. At least. And it gives you a fair amount to get on top of it if you're above 115. But right now we're trying to decide here. And it's pretty interesting. I think we're interesting. I got a nice thing to share too. So, if you look at this. So if we look at Ethereum going back to 2017, we can see a setup that it had when it formed this channel, had a double bottom retest, and then after it broke out, you get a little movement where it had a nice spike up and then it would bounce down. Then we went through all the way through April, and you can see just how this movement happened. We had a big move up. Then we had the big bottom here, retest in April of 2020. Did the double bottom again and broke the little channel and went parabolic. Now we're on like the next phase, and when you start to look at it, you know, you got to see. Now it does leave room for error right here. Maybe it does come down a little bit here if you focus where the circle is. But it might leave room for error over there. But it could come down a little bit down to like, who knows? Maybe it comes down to 2,500, 2,000. Nobody knows. Or maybe it just breaks out. But that leaves a lot of potential here. If in fact that's a double bottom, just like in April of 25, just like in April of 2020. It took a little time to break out towards the end of the year. But by the time it did, it was off and running to the next layer. Now, if you have a similar move, that's how you get those 15,000 areas. If these start doing the same thing they've done in past cycles, that's when you could get a very definitive movement. So it's interesting to look at it from all these angles. And the fact we cleared out a lot of liquidity here, I think it makes it very, 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 very interesting. So, you know, so you got to make sure, you got to decide what level is your albeit. You know, is your albeit level to buy. You know, I don't know what your I don't know everybody's plan for that matter. I can just show you what I can show you, and you know we can go from there. Good evening, 8:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. And I think it's an awesome way to look at it, too. Like, if you're trying to look and hunt and see, now you're either looking for a buy now, but if you're saying you're looking for a double bottom, there's always that objective here that maybe that was the first bounce, and that's a real second bounce, because if it pulls up, just to play devil's advocate, and it's not just IOTA, I keep pointing to it, but what if it does, and they do pull up here, and then you look at it and you're like, holy shit, look at that big W over time. Yeah, YouTube's not always accepting the like button when you guys hit it for me. That's a true statement. It happens. It's ominous here because there is opportunity. And like when I'm looking at some of them, because if these take the opposite reaction, and let's just say this doesn't break down here, we won't know. That's why we're in an ominous spot here, because we need to get back above that spot. But you could, in theory, front run some. If you think that this is where it starts to take off again, you could, in theory, look at XDC here and be like, okay, well, we know this is coming up the rear right now. You can look at IOTA. You can look at Algo, although they are moving a little bit after the flip. But you got to, it's so tricky. Like, I can't just, anyhow. But that's what I would be looking at. Like XLR, I would still be looking at it to see if it can, obviously, they've broken down from way up here, right? We know they've had a big breakdown. In the last several of days, you know, it's come up from above 40 cents, and now it's here. It's at a tricky spot, because what am I going to say? There's no conviction here yet that we've broken this bearish sentiment. It's come up a little bit, but there's no conviction across the market. Like, the easier way to do it, instead of looking at an individual, you know, understanding, go to the total 3, which takes away Bitcoin and Ethereum, and just take a look how the chart's set up. 965 is a big area that it's above right now in the 4-hourly, so that's a good sign if we can continue, you know, pushing up. And then in the micro, we're going to have to get over this, which would get us back to 997. But when we started, we were up here at 1.08, so just trying to make somewhat of a correction back up, but we don't know. Now, if we take it into a longer time frame, like into the monthly or the weekly, we can see we've got bullish pressure. That's a nice candle that starts midway engulfing. It's starting up with a nice push. It was barely even tested below, you know, to start at all here. So this is technically not a bad start here. You know, the weekly, yes, it left something to be desired, but, you know, oftentimes you do get those kind of candles. August is typically not a great month. September is slightly worse, which I could argue some years. But it's the 2-month stretch where we usually get a little bit of red, but it usually supersedes a big bounce in the market. So, you know, we don't know what the narrative now, like what is exactly going to happen, how quick it can happen. But we're definitely intrigued. I know I am. I'm very intrigued. So, let me get to some of the comments here this evening. I'm glad some of you decided to tune in this evening. Gold's down $10 to start today. Silver's down about 0.5%. So that's an interesting dynamic here, which would seem to point in the favor early of risk assets. Bitcoin's starting to push up towards those areas we talked about. Same with XRP, same with Ethereum. So you know, starting to be a slightly hot start here on the Sunday evening. So seek opportunity, present opportunity, but also don't just move based on emotion. If it's starting to set up in your areas, you know, maybe you do something. But make sure that you know what you're doing. If you're trying to sell something because you think it's a dead cat bounce, don't do anything yet until you can be very convicted of it. Because some people I've already seen are selling out already because they think it's a dead cat bounce, which it very well might be. But right now, it's the prototypical. You are in no man's land right now. You are in the hands of the market makers, and that's why I think when you just are more of an investing mindset rather than a quick trade mindset, this is the time where I think it actually helps. You know, because you would be like, hey, we're down 25% from the top here from the last week or so. You know, even though we're starting to move a little bit, this could be an opportunity. And then if we bounce down a little bit, maybe I could layer into some more. You know, so it's whatever your mind thinks. But don't react out of fear, FOMO, or that gambling emotion that shows you that you're going to make a quick dollar just because everything's starting to go up. That's often the times you get punched in the face. So just make sure you understand what you're doing. And don't trade leverage, please. There's been so much leverage liquidated in the past 2 weeks it would make your back break. Literally. My back was broken. It went back together and then it re-broke in 2 different places just by watching how many people got liquidated. You know, it was a pretty interesting dynamic there. The human anatomy they tell you can figure out, but you really can't. Explain my back just coming back together and then just cracking all over it, you know. So that's it's a tricky dynamic. I love days like this. When there's volatility, it gets my blood rushing in a good way. We just need, hello. Jonathan Whiteside, good evening. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I like that. Lonzo Turner, good evening. Dennis Smith, welcome in along with Dan Marginal. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Dennis, I'm glad that you're looking forward to the TI. I love it. There's a lot on the line short term. You are right about that. And hopefully we get some answers here short term. We're like Jerome Powell now. We're waiting for data. I can't confirm anything until I see the data. It still feels like we won't get that maximum push until we're about to get a nice raise cut. But at a certain point, you could front run that rate cut and the market could build into it. So we're just trying to see when we get some of these, we'll call it the frequent flyer signal because it's a very common signal when it finally starts to happen. But we'll know. We'll know here shortly. In the next 36 hours, we're going to know a lot more by Tuesday evening. I can guarantee you that. Randad, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 years with the XRP Diamond Hands badge. Dan Margin, I was fishing on the lake with his daughter. Priceless. Just priceless. Those are the memories and the days. Love it, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. Strider, welcome in. Good evening and thanks for being the #1 fan on this live, as it says. Dennis Smith was number 3. Love it. Jay for Mix, welcome in. Yes, I hope everybody had a blessed weekend, as Jay from Mix wished everybody a happy day as well. Smart Dog, good evening. I just need some money to buy more. Ha! Right on. Right freaking on. Jesse, good evening, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Says I definitely was hoping for a drop here, but we will still all do good. I'm sure we'll get some good advice here. From now I'm liquid. I guess more opportunity coming. Well, I don't know. We're down 25% still on most from the top here. It's just you're not down 35% now, or 30% cumulatively. But we don't know. We're looking to see if we get this rejection or an actual breach through. This is a very interesting spot. Very interesting spot. XLM is up 3.6% here since the flip of the clock. So definitely a great dynamic here to watch. Shane, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Howdy to you as well, my friend, as he says hello to everybody in the Army as well. Mark Casson, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Ben B, Joseph Euler, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. And yes, hit that like button like Mark Caston said. And good evening to you, Joseph, and thanks for saying hi to everybody as well, as Ben did as well. Anthony Latino, welcome in along with Frankie Fresh. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. And Janine is also watching and having a great day as well. I love it. I love it. Thank you both for watching from New York. From Long Island, nonetheless. Oof. Those are some interesting parts. I don't know if I have the balls to live in those areas. But probably a nice area where you live. You hear New York and what goes in my head, I'm like, ooh, New York, Detroit. Just depending on where you're at. Outer cities, inner cities, I don't know. But I'm sure Long Island is nice. Maybe it's not, I don't know. I've only been to New York one time. In my father's kitchen, welcome in, says new to your channel, new to XRP, love your breakdown. Saying, oh, you're welcome. Strap in, brother. Well, I guess I don't know if it's brother or sister. I'm assuming brother based on the picture. But strap in, because with XRP, there's never a dull moment. And there's never a dull moment with technical analysis. That's the beauty of it. Like right now, I dare say an opportunity that could present itself here, if we're front running something else in the market, would be XDC. It's a little bit slow running. We could say, and then this is just something to consider here. I'm not saying, hey, go in and buy XDC because it's the next big thing, because wait, it very well could be building a little channel here as well, and then it gets rejected even if it comes up. But like, there's still things that I like to watch. I'm seeing outliers in the rest of the market, and they sometimes are just going to resistance, but it's an early outlier. That's why we don't say it's the over outlier. It's just an early outlier with the rest of the market. You know, so if this were to hold, if this holds, and then this area ends up being like up, support, higher trend, you know, then I'm like, ooh, yeah, we might have fell out of here, but maybe we reevaluate this and we go, you know, give it a little bit of grace here and say, we just didn't have all the data here, and maybe it's not so bad, because it technically, I could make a case for that. But I won't yet, because I still want to see how it reacts to this, so I remember the data, after all. We can't change the data before we get some evidence. Now, if it breaks back over this and it gets back in here, maybe I'll do this just so I remind myself. You know, where did this hit? Right about there. I'll just remind myself that it was like that, you know? So maybe you got a 2-layer thing. Maybe it is building something here, but we don't know yet. So this is why it's interesting. We're watching XRP, and if XLM is going up here and we actually get a good rebound, you know XDC is going to follow through as well. I just don't know. I don't know how far this is going to go. Because right now, Ethereum is still on the bottom side of this level. There was not a big volume spike here, so that's not what I want to see. However, it's trying to make a room past here. So if we can get past here and push out of here, well, then maybe we can make a push to 4,100 next. We'll see. But a lot needs to be determined still. A lot. Still haven't had these further back tests down here, which I would love to see somewhere around 3,000. Don't necessarily need to be there. Maybe at 3,100, I would love to see that. But not necessary. These are why it gets fun on Sunday evening, because it's thinly traded, but now you've got people trying to front run the ETFs and yada, yada, yada. And a lot of manipulation happens over the weekend on Sunday, one way or the other. Nick Morales, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army by virtue here, being a very trusted mod and helping out so much in the Telegram, but you're an admin as well. And a technical advisor, understanding the strenuous nature. And it gets pretty stressful, man. Especially when you're trying to show something and then it gets misinterpreted, even when it does something in a micro sense, but you're trying to show the overall macro picture, but then everybody hangs on every word of the micro instead of the macro. It makes it very tough. The micro is where the action is, the macro where's the money's made. Did you guys hear that? The micros where the action's at, the macros where the money's made. You can think about that however you want. Put it on a fucking shirt. Stamp it in your local newspaper. Put it on your bumper sticker. The micros where the trading happens. You know, that's where the intensity is. It's all right there. You might as well just say the micros where the gambling happens and the macros where the real money's made. Like, that's the truth. So right now, we're trying to figure it out in a micro sense, but if we're looking at a macro, it's 25% off from, 3 weeks, or what, a week ago. So from a micro perspective, we were just having the same debate when IOTA was at 25 cents. So on a micro, we should be like, well, what the hell are we waiting for? Pick up a little bit here, pick up a lot here at 1884. And then if it breaks down the structure, well, I mean, you can always buy more, or you just let it go and wait for the next structure. But at the same time, you look at it and you say, well, Ethereum, in the micro, we're below 3,558. Albeit true, and it could very well be early, but that's why you would wait for confirmation here then, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're trying to front run before you get confirmation, then all of a sudden you start talking to yourself, like, well, hey, Ethereum's at 3,540, it can't possibly go down any farther. But right now, if you bought in, you'd be looking like a doofus because it's come all the way up here. You didn't buy the micro low, but now you're going to buy the resistance spot. Well, now if you wait to buy it when Ethereum's at resistance, now you better wait until it bounces over and gives you a little confluence here, because what the hell's another 2% from here? Who gives a rat's ass? Do you really care about a 2% micro movement if it could cost you another 25 if it goes the wrong way? No, I don't think so. But if you were going to take that big risk, you buy it when it was on the bottom. We talked about it last night that this would be a good opportunity here if you take it, and at the very least you could sell it out, at that resistance point. I was not in the right functional mindset last night after my son's party and with everything going on, so I was not going to tempt fate with the market. I was just going to chart it out and see how it worked out to today. Well, today, of course, it's at the exact spot that I want it to be past to make a decision, or it hits the exact breakdown area perfectly. If this was a dead cat bounce, this is where it would bounce up to and stop for Ethereum. At least it's close to it. Same thing with Bitcoin, we're close. It's got a little bit of margin for error, but this is about the area it'd come up to and get rejected and then fall out. It's still got about $600 more it could go in this area. But then it could still go to 118 to get that further rejection. That's the problem here. Like, there's a lot of open area. XRP at 302, but it still has to get to 306 to break that first real layer of resistance. So earlier we're like, it's probably coming to 306. Because last night we're like, it's got to come to 289 and 292. If it gets above there, then it's 306. Gets above there, then we can open the door a little bit to 328. Gets above 328, we're golden. But it's at 306 to 328. That is when you slightly break back to bullish. So right now we're trying to get back into that area, but we're also in that we get rejected area at 306, and then it's just all for nothing, and it ends up being a dead cat bounce. So we're trying to see if this is a dead cat bounce or if it's got some legitimacy. If this has some legitimacy, you got tap 1, tap 2, and you're going. Either way, I said 2 days ago and yesterday when we were down at 270, 280, what does it matter? In the end of the day, I still think, because some people were mad they bought at 315 and it's like at the end of the day, I still think even if it was the worst case scenario and it never went up as high as $10 or what, it's still got to go to 549 at some point in this whole setup. Even if it came back down to $1, it's going to go up there at some point. It's already written in the code. It's going up there at some point, even if only one time. So it really doesn't matter if you bought it at any level it's been at right now. It does when you're down, but in the grand scheme, you're going to get bought back out. It's almost like if you hold your house long enough, even if you overpaid, the appreciation is going to happen at an extent of so much per year. If you hold out long enough, it'll appreciate enough, unless you have a appreciating mortgage where the mortgage is just variable and, or a fixed arm where it's on the back end or whatever the case may be, where it's interest loaded. On there's just, Kyle Kupiak, welcome in. Cape Cod Kyle from Massachusetts. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad. Greatly appreciate you, my friend. Defined Group, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. And a very, very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. Big Dog, good evening, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. Adam, good evening. Little Sunday night special indeed. I'm still 20 minutes behind on comments. This is crazy. Live Your Dream Media, welcome in. Same with XTC. Overall picture looks juicy as fuck. You better believe it. The overall picture on this stuff doesn't look bad, guys. That's the point. Can there be entries made? If you make your rational decision that it's hit your levels, there's no reason. You gotta have conviction. This came down to this little channel support that we had talked about for band. Now, does it bounce here? Does it hold? Does it come all the way down? We don't know. But it's already had a bottom here twice. Is it a little early right now? That's what we're about to find out. If this channel breaks, well, yeah. It's going to take until about here in 70% of the move, which gets us to October. But yeah, so we need to see if this actually breaks out or gets rejected here. Is this a bear flag? Is this a recovery? Is this whatever? Is this a big W forming? I would love to see. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm definitely going to be enjoying this ride the whole way, one way or the other. A lot of information being delved out here. A lot of information. Nick Mao said, I shared earlier how the banking, the whole day and weekends caught up to me. I apologize. Of course, I'd yawn when the most important comment's probably right here. I shared earlier how the banking ISO coins may be the big winners this cycle. The charts are showing us something. It's just up for us to figure out what. Oh, for sure. I think the ISO and IoT are the big winners of this cycle. Now, if we could figure out the proper RWA tokens, the real world asset tokens, and also the AI ones that should be sprinkled in here when it comes to robotics and things that actually go in hand with automation and autonomy when it comes to robotics, the stupid drones and, you know, the you guys know, the droids and the humanoids and all this other crap that they're inventing, and anything that attaches to that, I think is going to be a big winner over the next 5 years, especially in this run, because I think we really do need to capitalize before 2028 with all, maybe not the beginning of 28, but when all that stuff gets implemented with all these new regulations, like we need to capitalize in the best way we can. And maybe that is, you know, for someone buy in now, and even if it goes down, hey, it's down 25% from just a few days ago, but you haven't got the validation, or maybe you wait for validation. Like for me, this scares the hell out of me for anybody who's a new trader. It scares the living shalushis out of me, because if you're a new trader right here, you are literally getting kicked by fate itself right now trying to figure this out. Like, you could have this so many different ways, but again, it seems more legitimate to me to just, you start to open it up, maybe. I don't know, I still don't know about that, because this is a 4-hourly, and you can very easily justify that this came down, around, and then it's so hard. Because with the evidence, you could even look at this and be like, hey, we're in a channel now. But I don't want that. I want to see the higher levels. I want to see how this was setting up. Like, I want to see how we had this pressure built up here. And yeah, I know I can manipulate it to look bullish as hell still right now in the short term. But I want to see how exactly this reacts. And that's why I have it set up like this. I want to see. I want it to prove. I want this to have some fortitude here and be like, hey, we got this. Like, we're above this area. We're above these areas. But even if you set it up over the top like that, or you set it up like this to give it more time, or you set it up like that, it doesn't matter. The resistance is the resistance below. Even if you set it up like this, it doesn't matter, because it's still that overwhelming support structure below that we're trying to figure out. So if it breaks through here, which is the first layer at 115, it's a big layer, maybe up to 115.5, but then you got to come all the way up here to over 117 to try to see what happens. That's why it's so insane right now. Because you could, in theory, still run another 3,000 on Bitcoin and be bearish as shit. Or you could be down here not even confirming anything, but in a macro view being so bullish that it could just be an accumulation phase here for the next month or two. Even if it drops down another 20. You know, or if it rises up another 20, you just accumulate. There's no right answer here. Because on the macro front, we are definitely coming up to something humongous. You know, it kind of sucks though when we talk about this and it's like, well, Tom, XRP was at 360 and now it's at 301. I understand that. And you can keep throwing that back at everybody who tries to do analysis, because, hey, after all, even with this big bounce back, XLM was already up here, on July 17th, and it was up here at 52 cents. So it's like, oh, congratulations, it bounced to 41, or 11 cents down from 2 weeks ago. It's like, I get that, but you're going to have to start somewhere with the liquidity jumps and different parts of the patterns when it back tests, and this is how it works. And then I got somebody earlier who wanted to talk about IOTA, which I understand. Oh, Tom, I know IOTA's having a bounce back, but it was up at 26, 27, 2, 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks ago, but a couple weeks ago. And I understand that because look where it's at. But now it's the same quick rush to judgment. Like you can make the quick rush to judgment. You can let this bounce out and see a clear back test down here. If it's going to hold this, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. My gut tells me that this is probably not going to end well. But at the same time, my guts told me that before. But because I look at the technicals, I can go against my gut if it gets to a certain level. And be like, okay, well, my gut usually does me right. It still had me out in time for here. But now it's kind of holding me back here. So I got to look at the technicals. But then my gut usually wins out if I would have just waited another few days. But I like these parts. These are fun because let's look at all the questions I'm asking, not just myself, but showing you in real time all of the different things in the pattern that you really have to talk about. And right now, it scares the hell out of me where we're at because we're on the downside right now. With all of that movement, we're still below where we need to be on every single token. And the micro. And the macro, we're fine. We're above, way above where the failed safe zone is. Way above. But the fail safe zone's like 35% down still, so that's the interesting part. AUB, welcome in and thanks for being in town zone for 6+ months with the XRP predictor. Says XRP back to $3.28, retest and back down. Excellent. And I know nobody probably plays No Man's Sky in here, but I restarted fresh, I don't know, like 3 hours ago of gameplay. Because I wanted to do it on the PS5 Pro because it's updated. And I wanted to just stay on the first planet for a while and explore. And it's pretty cool. I know there's a lot of the same stuff that gets regenerated. But if you actually look deeper within it's my mom was watching it earlier. And she's like, I can't believe how real the planets look. And she was getting scared by some of the stuff. It was actually pretty entertaining to see her reactions. Because nobody usually watches it when I play those things. But I try to lose myself and stuff like that. That's kind of like when the market's doing what it does, get to your happy place. You know, remember Happy Gilmore, the first one? When he was missing all the putts and he gets to his happy place. But then when his emotion overtakes, then Shooter McGavin ends up in it. You know, and all this weird stuff happens with his grandma and his love interest. But when he's actually in his right state of mind, he can shake that off. It's like what I told my mom today. She's starting to stop caring what so many people think about her. So she's able to just bounce off of it now, and it's happened a lot in the last couple of months, finally. But when you don't care what other people think, and you only care about what you're seeing in the right mindset, not being egotistical and things like that. But if you're looking at a chart, you learn the technicals. It doesn't really matter all the noise you're hearing. You can watch it, and it's going to be your own personal bias working against no emotion, working against no outside noise, because when you hear the outside noise, you're going to start to use that as a case study. You see too much outside noise where it starts to get super bullish. Like, ooh. You know, I don't necessarily like when it's super bullish because from a standpoint of so many people are buying, you know, this would be a great time for anybody who wants exit liquidity to happen. Like, how ironic is it that Eric Trump came out during this recent bounce back, right about when it started to bounce back. And he started talking about how you got to buy now, and this is the official time when you would have a dead cat bounce. So don't you think retail could be buying in right now because they're seeing green the last day and a half? And technically it's just a dead cat bounce right now unless it breaks up a little bit more here. So I don't know what the overall agenda is here. I don't know what the overall agenda is with Jim Cramer coming out and saying buy H-bar, buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum. And now they're all down like 15% from when he said it. But there has been a little bit of a 5 to 7 to 10% rally from that 25% drop on the last day and a half. Or 20% drop. So there has been a little bit of a bounce back. But what is the reasoning why they're coming on so strong and saying all this? And why have they come on so strong and saying gold is top now for this whole cycle? And silver. I've been seeing a lot more talk about that because I have Bloomberg on in the background whenever I do these lives, and just some of the stuff I start to see, it's insane. Like the narrative that's being spun, like, are they really setting us up for the ultimate trap? Or are they going to invite us into the party if we're willing to listen? I've never seen them on the news give us good advice about buying into something. We'll see. Maybe this is the exception to the rule. Maybe they said if you can sit through the 20% drop after old Kramer says this, and you know you can sit through this, you deserve the reward. But in my past experience and past cycles, we usually get some kind of insane correction in August and September, and then we just start to hunt the rabbits, and we start to see the pumpkins. And by November, we usually have a pretty profound movement from November to December. So don't get caught with your pants down, you know, in these situations. But also, don't be so afraid to react when it does something that you have charted out and you decide that this is what I want to happen. And when it starts to do it, don't be afraid to act. But ask yourself a question. If you're going to buy XRP today at 301, what stopped you at 278? Are you only buying it today because you got scared because it went up from 278 to 301? Are you buying it today because you said, I'm waiting at 278. If it gets over $3 again and holds it, now I'm going to buy it? Because that's legitimate. But I would dare say, why stop at $3? Wait for it to hold 306 because that's when it first hits micro bullishness again. I know it sounds stupid, but I can't help it. It's technical analysis. Some people don't understand it in the same way I do, so that makes no sense. Some people understand it differently, so they think I'm a jack-off. But you know, it helps me in the micro. But I always keep the macro attention. Let's see. Dylan, welcome in. Let's go. Just hit $3. Indeed. XRP Zombie, thanks for being in town for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. What level do you think XRP has to clear? If you want to start invalidating a dead cat bounce, first thing to me is get over $3.06. And then ultimately you need to get over 328 to get back onto the bullishness. But over 306, you start to open up the bullish narrative again. So 306, you can start to wane down a little bit on the dead cat bounce, and you can solidify it by being over 328. That's the best I can give you. But 306 is a big start. And we're close. There's no doubt about it. We are close to, at least getting over that movement. I don't think $3 would solidify that dead cat bounce, in my opinion. I think it's that 306 because that structure, the way that the 20-day moving averages and the slightly higher time frames and just the way it's set up, I think it would give a lot of validity there. So, I think that's the best I can tell you. In my father's kitchen, new to your channel, great stuff. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And I hope you stick around. I really do. Kat DF, thanks for being in town for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. Love. She's been around so long and gives such good information. Sends me emails too with great technicals. I'll share it from time to time. Hey Tom, does alt season start as Bitcoin tops or do we have to wait till it drops? I predict Bitcoin tops at 150. Well, for a true alt season, it would technically not start while Bitcoin in theory is going up unless the market, let's say Bitcoin trickles up to 150, because there's a scenario where I like that area. If this overall pattern doesn't break down, where it could be a rising triangle or a rising wedge, it's a hard way to interpret it, because I can see it as a rising triangle just as much as I can see it as a rising wedge, just because of the way it's set up with a big inverse head and shoulders, because it really is. Right now we're back testing the inverse head and shoulders, but I like your 150 because 143.8 is where I have that next push in the bull market if we can reestablish with Bitcoin like we're trying and not rotate back down, because it's already hit my first target in the bull market for Bitcoin at 122 because we had that cup and handle. So it's already filled that first target. Now, is he going to get a snack? Now, if we can just hold this pattern, which we're back inside of it for now, we need to get back above, which we almost are right now. This is why it's important to get past that 115. And I say 5 to give it a little grace, because then it can lead us up to 143. Does it start true alt season? Probably not, until this finishes what it's going to do. And this would make sense even if it does something like this, and it would give us time until the first quarter of 26. But once this ends and the money starts rotating into Ethereum, and Bitcoin dominance is down below 50... We need to break, I think, to get this channel going. I like below 58%, but we got to get past this first hiccup here, because you have a big channel here. But eventually, this is going to break down. This whole pattern is a bearish pennant, and those are bearish continuation patterns. And at some point, if this played out, and it would take until sometime in 2034 or 5 area, unless it's 70% of the move, at 70% of the move, you could technically come somewhere over there, and it could make it a slightly lower number at 4.6. But 70% of the move would put us somewhere around two. Ooh. Nah, we got to go a little bit farther. Because that might be early. June of 2028, we could come back. And by then, if that happens, a bearish pennant is technically up. You know, you have higher lows and lower highs at the same time. But you're coming in from a downward formation and a big drop. And that looks like a bearish pennant. We had a fake out over, and now we're back within. And over time, this looks like it's going to come down well below 10%. That means right now, every dollar that comes into Bitcoin, or into the crypto market, 62% of that dollar goes into Bitcoin. And 38% goes into every other crypto in the sphere. So let that sink in. If $1 comes into the crypto market, 62 cents automatically goes to Bitcoin off the top. 38 cents goes to all other crypto. So if it dropped down to 8.5%, out of every dollar that comes in, 8.5 cents goes to Bitcoin and 91.5 cents goes to all other crypto. We're on a big imbalance right now. There's not enough money to fund every other crypto to go to its potential right now if Bitcoin's getting 62% of every dollar. It's the best way to look at it. So I think it's a good way to look at it. Frankie Fresh says he's away from the shithole city. That's good to know. I'm glad to hear that. I am. It's all an illusion. Thanks for being in Tom's for 6+ months. The XP Predictor says, I think we're going to get a disbelief rally through majority of August and something disgusting in September. Droopy recovery October. Wrap things up in Q4 for the institutions. That's not out of the possibility. It's all an illusion. That's why we have to watch very closely here for any real signal that we're going to start early here. And then for another drop, possibly, even if we start early, because you're right about that. Sola Jeffy, welcome in. What, do you want to go outside in the dark? TTI, sorry. Dana Malika, welcome in, and thanks for continuing in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. I really appreciate that. Got to agree about ZBCN. ZBCN has been front running. Ooh, I like watching front runners. Let's see what ZBCN is looking at like today. Ooh, nice bounce back there indeed. Over the... Oh, well, we got to look at this daily. Okay. That's fine. Yeah, it's had a nice bounce back over this last couple of days, too. Nice inverse pattern. It absolutely could be front running this market. And ZBCN could be off to a big move still. We've had several nice runs in this token. I'm actually a nice side fan of it. I'm interested to see how it moves, so I'll keep this on here just to see. But yeah, it could be an outlier to what's coming for the rest of the market for sure. For sure. But sometimes it's been known to grab liquidity when the rest of the market's struggling. It takes that extra liquidity. But I want to see what happens here. It should be a nice volatile Sunday. I like volatility. What's my thoughts on Chainlink? I don't hate it. Just out of my price range a little bit. It's already moved a lot within its pattern compared to some of the other tokens that I can buy that are a lot cheaper that I think I appreciate a lot more. If we're looking at it. Been building out a bet long recently. Not a bad idea. VeChain's one of the bigger tokens in the Internet of Things. And I love VeChain. VeChain's a nice token. It's come down to my support here. So we looked at resistance and we talked about the first layer buy would be somewhere around where it's at. So that very well could be a nice inverse head and shoulders there set up. That's why it's intriguing here because, you know, in the daily perspective on these, in the weekly perspective, I'm very tempted here about the way it's set up. So, you know, Sola Jeffy, I like that a lot. Dylan Tremblay, XDC is underrated, more bullish on XDC as XRP is going mainstream. I am the same way. I look at XDC as the same way I look at silver versus gold. Even if I wanted to buy gold, I couldn't. I'd have to buy silver because the ratio is over 90 to 1, and I can trade silver when it gets to 30 to 1 and give them, I always say, give them 35 ounces of silver. Keep 65 of them when I buy 90 ounces per 1 ounce of gold. So you buy 90 at a time, and that, or once you get to 90. And then you could keep, what is it? If you give them 35, you could keep 55 ounces and you'd have an ounce of gold. It's the same thing with XRP. It's 10 times up, while XDC is not even 1x up, or maybe 1x by now. So it's way cheaper in comparison to where it's at with XRP. So you're basically like the gold silver ratio, the XDC to XRP ratio, or the X, it's out of whack. So it's a much better value buy. I agree with that. I've been pushing that for a while. Tango, welcome in, and thanks for reading Tom's under 3+ months of the XRP Meteor. Says crypto is like being in an abusive relationship. Oh, yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. It often says, who's your daddy? And then when you say you are, it's like, who's my bitch? And it's like, I don't know how to answer this. So, I agree. But so far, so good. I mean, if you want to get a little bit of movement here, so far, so good. So, all I can say here, guys, is you got to make a setup positioning. You got to buy what makes sense. If you get the validation or you get it's just set up the way you want, take a shot. And then have a fail-safe plan. Because right now it's getting to that point where if it gets back above here, you're looking a lot better. 115.5, it gives you a lot of clarity, but 115.2 will do the job and get you over it at least short term. Wait a minute. I knew that didn't look right. It's like, why does it seem like that's lower than it should be? I can't be saying 115.5 for no reason. Yeah, see, that's better. That's why. Yeah, so it's got to get, it's almost there. It's almost there. We just got to get up there a little bit higher there. I want to make sure that it's dead on. That's better. So, yeah. But that 115.5, I think that's the first basis here. Yeah, that's better. And then when it comes up here, you're looking at about 117. Right around 225. 117, 225. If it can get over 115.5. And then if you can get over that 117.5 and get back over there, you're in a real nice spot. Right now, we're just trying to see if this is a head formation or not. That's the only reason you have to wait. Because we don't know if it's forming a head or if it's been a nice pull for support and now it has some room. Wait a minute. JW is here. Wait a minute. Did I see one from JW? Is that the right JW? I'm always confused now. JW, is that you? Define it says it looks like the troubleshooting worked. G-Stop, thank you so much for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens, along with Juan Cannolis. I really appreciate both of you being in your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. No, it's not about closing at 115.5. It's just about being above it. I'm not looking for a close. I'm just looking for a steady hold in the future. It doesn't mean it has to close today, tomorrow, next week. Just being over the top of it is a good start. I would prefer for it to be over 122 and then get over 126, but it doesn't. There's no deadline. I feel more comfortable if it's over 115.5 because then it gives you that gap push to 117.25 approximately. And then you're welcome, G-Stock. Keep asking questions and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Where can you buy silver? So Juan, this is a loaded question. In the USA, I like Scottsdale Mint when I use my personal currency, like for my bank account for an ACH transfer. But if I'm using crypto, I like Scottsdale Mint. So if I use crypto, I buy Scottsdale Mint. And then if I use actual for my bank, I use JM Bullion. I haven't bought I haven't bought silver or gold for transparency since 2023. At the end of the year, I stopped buying it when gold got over 2,000 and silver was like 20, low 20s. Just because it didn't fit my agenda because I was going back into crypto. So, and then my mining stocks is what I needed to. Yeah, IOTEX is a nice one to have paired with IOTA. I'm a big fan of IOTEX. It's done rather well. Crypto, and I gotta go though here. I gotta go here. Crypto Plumber, welcome in, and thank you so much for being in town for 3+ months with XP Meteor. Says he uses Jam Bullion as well. But I gotta go, everybody. Julie needs me. It's been nice. It's been a nice 55 minutes. Have a blessed evening. IOST is an IoT token. I just don't know because there was a day when BitBoy back a long time ago in like 2019 was interviewing this Chinese guy who was part of the tech team who created it. And he basically said that it was a siphoning scheme. And I don't know if it was serious or if he was just, I don't know, but it always scared me.
Jonathan Boyd.
Yes, that's JW.
Yay!
JW is the #1 fan. Yeah, Jules rules. Yeah, they did some troubleshooting and it worked.
Oh, yay!
JW, it's so awesome to have you back in here.
Yay!
Why do you regret not buying? Regret not buying what, Shane? Why would you regret? If it's going now.
Said a lot of people are going to regret buying. He was just fixing his.
Oh, a lot of people are going to regret not buying. Not buying what?
A few quant when they can.
Oh, quant. I got you.
Right?
I got you. I'm glad you seen the rest of that comment. I'm going to keep looking at quant.
Is that what that is? QNT?
Yeah.
Look at me. I know.
Ooh, quant came down in that spot I circled a few weeks. The last time we looked at this, that was a support structure where I circled it. This is even, that's Axlar. What else? Quant. Axlar's in that support structure right now. Well, that sucks. You have to pay more attention to that. I mean, this has been in this setup for so long. Eventually, it'll break out. It will eventually. This has been set up for years. These are bullish these are bullish consolidations. This is a bullish consolidation, this setup. So whenever it breaks out, if it breaks out before November of this year, or by December of this year, the technical target will be over $300 a token. FYI. And right now, Quant is at $112. So that would be a 2x from here. But you know, there's a lot of up and downside there. Axlar, I encourage everybody to look at. If it doesn't break down out of this structure, it's almost getting to about as low as it can go. The lowest it can go to not break this structure is like 29.89. And it came down to like 31.70. So I didn't realize it's in the circle box now. It's got a chance if this recovers. But for hourly, we got to get back over here. Then we got to make sure this isn't a death cross that brings us down farther. But there's a lot. There's so much here, but I got to go. Have a good one, everybody. Be